I mean, I love what you do because you do a lot of like social activities more so than me. I want to be doing more social activities, but even like the improv stuff and the acting classes that you take, that's a great way to meet people.
Yeah.
So like, and you know, just because you're there with people who also are like-minded like you, they're there for the same reason, and that already is like a thumbs up.
Yeah.
So, you know, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny like that because you start off feeling apprehensive, but then once you progress together and you really show through some hobby, you show your vulnerable side to other people, and in that way you connect because you're all being vulnerable in the same circumstance. And then each week you get to see that more, and it becomes like this really cool bond that you don't even have to have anything else in common. Just for the sake of being vulnerable in the same space is so special. So then you really can like feel for that person when they're being vulnerable, and you connect with them because you know how that feels for yourself. And that's so special. Like, and that's cool because some of your friendships don't need to be similar. I found my best friendships when none of us are similar. My closest friend, she studied law and business, and like we don't have the same similar career prospects, but our values are so similar. And that is like at the core of our friendship. We connect every day, regardless of how different our whole daily lifestyle is. Every day we connect because we still have the same core values. And I think that's really cool that you can just mix with anyone in any circumstance. But if you, I guess, are vulnerable and have similar core aspects about you, then that really can mold you together and then learn from that person in all the other ways that they're different from you.
Yeah. It's interesting. What you said before sort of triggered a thought in my brain in terms of having different types of friendships. Something that you mentioned something about that. I can't remember exactly what you said, but I think something that I've struggled with, and I think it's cool to bring this up because it's probably something that a lot of people in their 20s sort of struggle with in their teens as well. And I'm like happy to admit it, but I feel like for a long time, I feel like I'm getting okay with it now. But I think for a long time, I was sort of being different people to different friends or different friend groups.
Yep.
Like I'd have like my group, like a couple like male friends who I'm close with, and I felt like I was sort of one way with them, and it was very that friendship was, you know, very solely based on banter and just having a fun time. And then I've had like different friends who I'd have like deeper connections with and have deep conversations with. And at times I felt like sometimes I'd look back and be like, wait, like what's going on? And sometimes like if there was an event and like both this different friend groups, I don't know if you ever had that, like the clashing of the worlds.
Yeah.
Like the colliding of the worlds where like different friend groups are like in the same location, like at a birthday party, for instance, and you invite everyone and you almost have to like hold yourself in a different way towards different people. And it's like, yeah, I don't know. I think I'm getting better with it now just because the older I get, I'm getting more confident in myself and more strong in my identity and who I am as a person, and not being afraid. I think a part of that comes from insecurity and feeling like you have to be a certain way to please someone. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, do you have any like thoughts on that?
Oh,
or
yeah.
Have you ever faced that?
I've had two sort of, I would say, friendship breakups over the last 5 to 6 years from high school to now.
Yeah.
And it's just become like this sort of thing that they're so used to seeing a version of you and they want to keep seeing that version. But when you grow out of that, it becomes uncomfortable. And it's like whether that friendship's going to withstand that, whether that person, of course, it's the same with relationships, whether you're willing to grow together, where you see something different in someone and think, oh, that's different. Let's see where that goes. Or being like, that's different. I don't like that. I don't want to see any more of that. It's interesting how that works. So, yeah, I've had to have 2 friendship breakups in my time. And that's really horrible. I mean, it feels shocking. But it's necessary in order to grow. And like if you feel that you can't be your full self around someone and you have to dim down a part of you just so that you appear the same way that you've always appeared to that person, just to keep them comfortable, then you're suppressing yourself.
That's when it sort of goes wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, and you've got to break through to that.
Yeah. It's I think it's something that affects a lot of people in their 20s. Hey, it's and it makes sense too because I mean, as we've touched on in the episode so far of the podcast, it's such like I guess there's a lot of, I don't want to say turmoil. I think it's not too tumultuous, but it you know, you're growing, you're still growing through that stage, and like you said, those friendships that you might establish when you're younger, you know, growing up as a teenager or something, and people see you a certain way, and then all of a sudden you're starting to change and develop into something different. and sometimes those people can take it the wrong way, and yeah, I think we've all had situations like that where friends have almost been like, I don't know who you are anymore, like things are changing, like
I miss the old you.
yeah, and they almost condemn you in a way for like sort of being different, and it doesn't come from like, they're not genuinely hating on you for being different now, but I think it just comes from a place of like not insecurity, but they're scared to sort of lose you and scared to lose what you had. And it's like, yeah, that's scary because, like, especially if you've been friends for a long time, and sometimes you have to go through that friend breakup, which can sometimes be just as hard as like as a romantic breakup, right? Because because
it's so hard.
Relationships it's hard to value different relationships based on like, because everything's going to be different, whether it is romantic or professional or just that's just a simple friend relationship.
All your relationships are defined by your own relationship. No romantic relationship is the same as the other. They're all different.
That's the thing as well. I think society sort of almost forced us in a way to put labels, not forced us, but has maybe sort of convinced our brains just through like movies and television. Just society is almost like to put labels on friends, and almost like there's a ranking.
Definitely.
Like, oh best friend. Jimmy, he's not my best friend. He's a close friend, but he's not a best friend. I just like think about it now. It's just like sort of funny that we've almost got like this ranking system now. And again, it goes back to my point of like humans are so diverse and different. It's like every connection is going to be unique and different, and that's exciting. That's exciting, right? Because it means that like when you do start connect with someone, it's like, there's sort of the possibilities are endless in terms of like where that's going to develop. Yeah. And I think it's cool getting to a place. I think it's cool getting to a place where you can sort of sit back and just like be really confident in yourself as soon as you sort of like start to lock in that identity. I mean, you never lock in your identity. I don't know what that means, but like you start to just really feel confident in sort of like who you are and not hold anything back. And that's when you start to really establish like genuine like friendships and connections.
Yeah.
When you're genuine, the connections become genuine.
Yeah. And giving someone the space to explore different parts of them. And also I think good friendships are when, say if you find something that you don't necessarily agree with that in the other person, then having that open space to be like, hey, like I think you're being a bit critical or a bit pessimistic. What do you think? Like, you know what I mean? Like being open and honest and objective, like not coming from a personal stance, just thinking, oh, okay, I can have this conversation and give some feedback. If whether they want to take it or not, sometimes not. And it is hard to do that. But sometimes I think all friendships and relationships are so good when you can leave that space, suss it out, not hold too tightly onto anything, because no relationship is completely permanent or forever. And you don't own anyone. Like you can't say this is my best friend and that's my best friend for like you can't constrain someone based on who they are now. We're all growing. We're all developing. Who knows where you're going to be in 20 years. Yeah. And accepting that space, you need to leave someone the space to grow. Yeah. And give that time and see where it goes, because we're all growing. You can't be too constricted and holding on to certain personality traits. Yeah.
I mean, you think about it now. I mean, in high school, you see it a lot in high school, I guess. There's always like those like, those like two friends all over there's always like pairs of friends that just pair up. And it's interesting, and you look at them and they're like say like they can be best friends forever, and they like lock themselves in, and they're always
lock themselves in. It's so true.
Yeah. That's the thing. You're like going on from your point of like having space. It's like that doesn't make, when you lock someone into a deep connection like that doesn't make in my opinion, that doesn't make a good friendship. That freedom and that space to be open with each other. Pressure. And like you said, talk about them if they're coming across as pessimistic or just being able to comfortably talk to someone about something. I think that's when you sort of get into that a freedom, a friendship of freedom. When you can get to that place where you can,
and it's a feeling you can feel when there's a relationship that does feel like, who knows where we're going right now, we're together, let's just keep riding the waves, like this feels good. And my best closest friends, I feel conscious of saying best now, my closest friendships are where my friends have pulled me up for like, say, an opinion or something. They'd be like, hey, when you said this, have you thought about looking at it this way. And I don't feel offended. I'm appreciative for the fact that they've noticed something and and I do the same with them. And I think that's so important. If you know someone I think at the core has the best intentions by you, they're going to keep like where they're coming from isn't from a place of malice or jealousy. You know that their feedback is constructive and they hope for and that's a feeling. You need to have that feeling and trust with someone. And you can sense when someone's in it for their own gain or if they're pulling you up because some part of your new personality trait or whatever that you've developed is intimidating them or is making them feel inferior or something. You know what I mean? You can feel when someone's feedback is constructive or not.
Yeah, and that's a good sign of sort of recognizing the friendships that do truly matter. Yeah, and I guess that's sort of a nice segue into the point that you sort of mentioned at the top. So this idea that fewer friends are better and just sort of locking in, I mean, as the term that you've coined, which is very cool, golden friends.
Yeah,
the golden friends.
Golden friends, man.
So this is interesting because I think, I mean, it's interesting. Like, I think again, just going back to school, like you have a lot of friends there, and we talk about the number of friends that you have, and then it's almost like the older you get, maybe. Yeah, I think even though maybe the number of people you meet might grow, I think the number of like close friends starts to diminish. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, it's probably different for everyone.
Yeah, there's no set formula, is there?
Yeah, I mean, when you think back to like we're like what 23, 24 now, and like you think back to school and like how many people from school are you like genuinely close with? You talk like at least once a week or something. And generally it's not a lot. And I think while you're at school, you think it'll be heaps. Like, oh yeah, I'll have all these friends. It'll be so great. We'll go on forever. And it's like it just doesn't. Like life changes and stuff.
Yep.
But yeah, fewer friends.
And we only have emotional capacity. We don't have the emotional capacity to have a close friend group of 15 people.
Yeah,
we can't keep on top and
especially as we change and grow.
We don't have the time to like consult with everyone about their day or their week, and we just don't have that. Yeah. I don't mean to limit, but I feel as humans we don't have that. And having a few good people in your life, and there's no limit. Like I feel like we always say it needs to be friends. Like it can be your grandma. Like I have a solid relationship with my grandma. Like we lean on each other. She gives me really constructive feedback when it comes to like putting my foot down in the workplace. She's great at that stuff. She's like, bitch, you take what you earn, and like she really like is motivating in that sense. But my main point is there's no limit as to who that person is. They could be 50-year-old. Like if you have that solid friendship, then that's what matters. It doesn't matter if they're in the same age range as you. Your quality of friendship is like there's no limit as to how that looks, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Even my 13-year-old cousin I have a solid friendship with. Yeah. And like that shit's solid. And she's 13. She's almost half my age.
Yeah. That's the cool thing. And again, it goes back to my point of sort of like humans, like all your connections are going to be different, and you can sort of connect with whoever. You know? Like you can have connections, we see relationships that are sort of like 10, 20 years apart. And it's like, and as I think in society, we're almost like we're cued to think that, we're provoked to think that that's maybe not a wrong thing, but we question that. And it's like, again, humans, it's like, just, I don't know, there's like no barrier on that, in terms of like who you can connect with and everything. And that, again, that's the exciting thing. But yeah, the idea of having few friends is interesting. And I think I'm starting to really value that now, especially as I get older. It's like trusting people. And developing trust is an interesting thing as well. I mean, like that, how do you go about, like, for some people, there's like a, I don't know if people have like a secret test, like test their trust, but like, I don't know, how do you like quantify trust? I don't know. It's an interesting topic.
For me, it always comes back to feeling. Like, I can feel it.
Yeah.
If I feel like someone's playing sort of power games with me, like you can just feel when someone's testing you out. And I give everyone the benefit of the doubt. I'm not someone that's like, how do I explain this? I don't try to be like, oh, you're down here and I want you to prove yourself up to my level. I give people a pretty decent level, but I'm not going to like let anyone in as my close friend. Like do you know what I mean? I give everyone a decent level to approach, but in order to come close, I guess there's some things that need to happen. but I'm not too critical. Like I just let it be. But there's some people that do certain things where you can just feel that there's sort of a hierarchy there and they're trying to see if you're going to match their power sort of level. And those sort of people I just don't have time for. I'm like, this doesn't have to be this complicated. Yeah. We have a good time. We get along. Let's be friends.
Yeah.
Like,
and it's all about having the instincts to read that. And like you said, it's all about the sort of going back to the feeling thing. And I think again, as the older you get, you sort of start to that moral compass in a way, and sort of like detecting, like I guess the trust compass sort of starts to get it gets a fine. The tuning is finer. The tuning is more accurate the older you get, just from experiencing. I mean, it's good experiencing. I think there's nothing wrong in having unsuccessful friendships when you're growing up. I think having friendships that fall apart are absolutely vital. And it happens to everyone, right? You're always going to disconnect from people. And you grow from that so much. It's such a massive thing. It's always hard when you're going through it. But, like, I mean, think about, like, how much you develop from each relationship. And, you even think back, like, even just, like, 3-5 years, and even the person you were back then, where you changed so much. And a lot of that is through, like, the people that you interact with and the people that you meet and the connections that you had. And your connections never look the same as well. Like even just a couple. I mean, even thinking now, like I didn't know you this time last year. I don't think we'd never met in person.
Crazy.
And it's like, that's nuts. And it just shifts so crazily, and it's exciting when you can sort of get to the point where you just sort of sit back in life and be like, in a year's time, I might, be hanging out with some dudes in Sweden. I know.
Yeah, you can't. You really can't quantify it. You can't give a formula. It's just you can feel it. There's no time. It's not like give it 1 year. It's like it just develops on its own. And I think the way that we can be aware of how the success of that friendship or relationship is just based on how we feel. Is this feeling consistently good, or is it consistently draining and bad? Then I really need to reassess. Yeah. You were saying something just before. I felt like saying something about... What are you saying?
Talking about trust. That's the thing. I mean, this is sort of like open a big can of worms.
Yeah.
Which is good. I think it's good when a topic does that, I guess. When we can sort of like...
Oh, okay. Now I remember.
Stalling for you.
Yeah. Also, when you move on from friends, not taking it too personally either, because it can be... It's very personal when you lose a close friend, just because there's differences there. But taking a step back and thinking... This is not organic anymore. We're not connecting anymore. You can't force something that's not meant to be. No matter how much you don't want to let go of the past, it is what it is. And just wishing that person the best from afar, that can be hard too, because I think naturally we think, oh, you may feel rejected by a friendship breakup or feel
guilty for it.
It doesn't, it never really feels good to move away from someone.
Never does,
And just trying to think we're on our own paths. We're both serving our best purpose. We're not meant to be in each other's life. We need new influences. We need the emotional capacity for new inspiration, new things. And just trying to wish that person the best. Yeah. It is hard. Well, for me, it has been hard, but I've tried to come to the awareness of thinking like we're both living our own best lives. I wish that person the best.
Yeah.
And we've had so many good times in the past, but we're on our own paths, and we're getting new influences now.
I mean, it's a good mature sort of standpoint to take, and like and again, being thankful for like what that friendship did do.
Yeah, Yeah,
like,
exactly.
We're all on this like trajectory in this journey, and like friends, people just come and go, and they're gonna help shape us in certain ways. We're just doing our thing, and people push us this way. Someone might push you that way. You keep going, and your core values still stay there. But all those experiences, with friends and different people and family experiences. Again, family is another thing as well. But all the experiences with other people help shape who you are, and constantly growing too. Constantly growing, and I mean, we're talking now again. Like we're not talking. We're just talking from like our experiences, and again, we're like by no means experts. We don't have it figured out when it comes to.
Yeah, we should say that every episode. We're definitely not.
Disclaimer, 20something podcast disclaimer.
We're just two people that are trying our best to be totally aware.
Yeah, but I mean, even just from the stuff that we talked about in this episode alone, I feel like a lot of people could probably relate.
Yeah,
and like a lot of stuff. I mean, I feel like for you and me, I can probably tell, and probably the listeners if you're listening, all these things that we've talked about, the people are probably thinking about particular people or particular friendships in their life, and like, oh yeah, like that was that person for me. And it's like it's a sign, like that's a thing, like that we all have those friendships, and you know they're just meant to be. It just happens. People come and go, and it's like it's exciting.
And it's not like one person's doing it right and one person did it wrong. Yeah. It's like just trying not to take it personal and just thinking that person, like, we may have lost that friendship, but it doesn't necessarily mean that someone was in the right or someone was in the wrong. We're both just, it's just like everyone's on different paths, different movement, different crossing. Like there's already, I'm sure, like other people waiting in stall, like that you're about to cross paths with again. We don't have the emotional capacity to hold on to so much in order for our development to go a certain way. Like maybe all our developments are going and then they lead to something that's like, you know, like it's interesting.
I think it's important as well just to be super thankful of the friends that are in your life now.
Yeah.
As well.
Definitely.
I think we can easily take it for granted and maybe think, you see other people's life, you know, even just through the lens of social media and think, oh man, look at that friend group. I wish I was in that friend group. I wish I was in that friends. And sometimes it's such this, you know, it's so important just to like talk to the friends that you do have now and not take them for granted. Just like tell them how thankful you are. I mean, I try to tell you every day.
Man, we're so good at that. Yeah. We gas each other up all the time.
Oh, man. It's like,
Yeah.
I was just going to say, it's like, it's a fun activity because it's like, it makes, you know, not only does it encourage the other person, make the other person feel good, but it makes you feel good for encouraging someone else and sharing that positive energy in someone else's life. And ultimately that's going to help, you know, push the friendship into a more positive, more positive road. So yeah, I mean, that's something that I try to remind myself of, just to be thankful of like who's in my life now.
Yeah. Yes. It feels so good to have good friends. Like, it feels great. And gassing people up and just telling them that you miss them and you really value their presence. It's just so nice to feel appreciated and let any other people feel appreciated. It feels so good.
Yeah. And again, like some people aren't lucky enough to have close, you know, friends that they can connect with.
It will come.
And that's the thing. You just gotta trust it. Trust that it will come and people, you know.
There's just so many activities that you can involve yourself in where there is that sense of being vulnerable, and that in itself, as I said earlier, is such a great. It's part of the human experience. Being vulnerable is one of the scariest things, if not the scariest thing. And that alone, there's so many activities that you can do where you can really make yourself feel vulnerable, even if it's fitness. Like that's bloody hard to pump yourself and really get into a certain sport activity. Like there's the threshold that you need to pass, that comfort zone you need to pass in so many activities, and there's so much potential for great friendships in those circumstances.
And in those situations, allowing yourself to be open and to be allowing yourself, I mean, as you said, just being vulnerable with other people and just connecting with people on a really sort of genuine human level. Finding those people. Wow.
Yeah, wow. That wraps up another episode.
Well,
yes,
we want to be your friend. You can connect with us on social media
at 20something_pod on Instagram. Otherwise, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, etc.
Etc. Yes. When you said ETC, I was like, is that a podcast platform? I haven't heard of. What's ETC? And we'll have that all. I mean, we've got our link tree up. Yes. So if you just head to the link tree, which we have linked down in the description, that'll take you to literally everywhere you could ever possibly want to go when it comes to all things 20-something.
Yes, podcast. And we have a few highlight videos on TikTok, which are fun to watch.
We do too.
If you don't have time to listen to a podcast or your preferred platform is TikTok, we're there as well.
Little juicy tidbits for you.
Yes. Right and new episodes every Friday fortnight. Thank you for being here with us.
Yes. Thanks so much for listening. And we'll see you in 2 weeks' time.
See you. Bye.